day one of a new journey between me and my friend here, Mr. Eric Berry, better known as Trekkie B7. I am Jay Clark. What this is from 60,000 Light Years, a Star Trek podcast. We are two people who love Star Trek, and what we wanted to do is simply on the road to the 60th anniversary of this, which is crazy, a show being 60
Yeah.
old. Just kind of take an overview. This is not an episodic look back. What we're about to do is go on a journey of series by series and just take a look at where things are in Trek. But what we really want to do right now is just kind of one, get to know each other a little better, allow you to get to know us, and hopefully
Absolutely.
you'll join us for this ride. Like, share, subscribe, especially if you're a Star Trek fan, because it's all about our love for Trek, right? Right, sir.
Correct. And yeah, it'll be a long road getting from there to here, but or here to there, but we'll get there. Shout out to Enterprise.
Impulse warp speed. We gonna find a way.
Exactly.
Work some magic in the engine. Once again, like I said, hopefully you'll join us for the ride, if even if it's just for your favorite series. We're gonna take some time with each one, but essentially, what you'll find is every month we're gonna hit a series and just kind of go through some of the major arcs of it, episodes, characters, themes, just really dissect it from that high view, that 60,000 light view. We'll dip in deep where we need to and when we want to, and like I said, we're gonna figure this out as we go along.
As we go along, and yeah, I'm really excited for this journey. I'm just really excited that we're doing this together, and shout out to you, Jason, for coming up with the idea, because as from the word go when you pitched this to me, I'm like, I'm all in. Let's go warp speed. Like, let's do this.
And once again, thank you for joining me, because I was like,
Uh,
yep, I'm gonna pitch this. Like I said, it's a concrete idea of what it was. Where it'll go,
yeah.
who knows? But you signed up for at least a piece of the journey, and we'll see what happens. And I'm
And to the journey, that's one of my favorite Star Trek Voyager quotes. So we're getting into it from Next Generation, original series, animated Lower Decks. Like we're gonna cover it all, and I'm so excited for this. I've been hungry to talk about Star Trek on a podcast again, so I'm ready to go.
awesome, awesome. So let's just jump into it. And I'm curious, like,
Yeah,
where's your love for Trek come from? Because just so the audience knows, I'm 37. I believe you're around
I'm
40.
42. I'm
42. Okay, okay.
42. Yeah,
So
yeah.
slight difference, but still kind of in the same vein, but different pockets. So I'm just curious. We're both clearly after the TOS. Where's your love for Trek come from, and how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so my love for Star Trek was literally the premiere of The Next Generation. Um, I am a second generation Trekkie. My dad, um, grew up with the original series and the movies. He actually went to the first Star Trek convention in New York.
Oh, wow.
He is a huge nerd, and if anyone knows me from my other podcasts like Ranger Command Power Hour or Starfleet Escape podcast, I'm a huge collector of Power Rangers and Star Trek, and my love for collecting comes from my dad and also my love of Star Trek because he collected toys like Mask in the 80s and Hot Wheels and all that stuff growing up. I mean, I have very fond memories of because my dad worked a lot. He worked his ass off, and um, he would always make it a point to take me and my sister out. Like on the weekends, we would go to Toys R Us, we would get McDonald's, like that was our ritual.
Right.
And so, I was exposed to collecting at a young age, and I'm a collector just like he is. And I remember very vividly him sitting me down in front of the TV, and we watched the premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation in 1987, Encounter at Farpoint. And that I was literally 5 years old. And so I have been a Star Trek fan for 37 years.
Wow. Wow. So I'm
Yeah.
slightly similar because yeah, it's my dad for me. Dad
Yep.
was grew up TOS, like that's.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us it was like our house was, him and my aunt, his younger sister. anytime they're around each other, they're quoting Star Trek. And,
Yeah,
and not just like quoting like lines that everybody know. It could literally be something to the extent of they do a hand movement, a specific facial gesture, say one word, and they're pinpointing the episode and the scene from which like that's how
wow,
much they love Star Trek. And so it's just like, oh, like part of it's just like, oh my God, you love something that much as a kid. But then, now it's like, yeah, I see why. Um,
exactly.
and so it's like Star Trek is just always on TV. So it's just one of those things, catching the reruns. Oh, like
Hmm.
that's if he's chilling in the evening after work or in the kitchen, Saturday morning or something, he's cooking along with having Star Trek on, BBC or Sci-Fi back in the day, and
Yep, yep.
it's Star Trek was just one of those shows always on TV, and so that was just one of those things naturally, or it was just one of those things for us to bond over, father and
Yeah,
son, my father passed down the love of the New York Mets, the Dallas Cowboys, and Star Trek to me, like those are like three key things, like that's part of who I am because
absolutely.
that's what he passed down, and so yeah, that's it's been interesting. Like my specific probably entry really into it is just watching random, Next Generation or TOS episodes or
Yeah.
the movies that we had recorded on VHS. Old school, we
Hmm.
had to record off the HBO free weekend or when the episode aired on TV because there was
I
no
I recorded, I swear to God, when Voyager was airing, I had every single Voyager episode on VHS at one point. And I did that for Enterprise. Like I redid tapes. And it sucks because I got rid of those tapes along the way at some point, but I mean, it was required viewing, and I would tape them because my dad would like work nights
Mhm.
when Enterprise was airing, and so I would tape them for him, and we'd watch them like over the weekend or the next day or whatever. And yeah, so he watched all of Voyager with me. We watched all of Enterprise, and so um, yeah, it's just that continued viewing of Star Trek. And, as I grew older, Voyager was airing when I was in high school, and those were formative years for me. And Voyager, in some ways, has a higher respect and love for me even than Next Generation. And I love Next Generation. Captain Picard is my captain, but Janeway though, like Janeway
I can imagine.
is yeah. So I love Janeway, and also Enterprise. Like I was watching Enterprise through college, and those two shows are very important to me. And D Space Nine, I watched that in the later seasons because it was hard to find in my area syndication wise.
Uh,
So I got into D Space Nine a little later, but I love me some D Space Nine. But over the years I've done rewatches, and of course, I mean Next Generation. There's episodes that I remember first watching when I was a little kid, and I was like, oh yeah, that's this episode. And so I have those really nostalgic feelings.
so for me, Deep Space Nine is my favorite, but because
I love it. It's very hard for me to pick a favorite.
no, no,
It
I get
changes on the day.
we will have those battles, I'm sure. It's really outside of the Trek reasons of why it's my favorite. I'll put those to
Hmm.
the side for when we get to it. Like for me, like that was like that's when I really became a kid and aware. Like like I was born right before the premiere of TNG, so
Right.
Deep Space Nine really lined up well with when like I'm a kid, and like I said, we had it out and recorded on videotapes because we weren't at home all the time on evenings. Like it'd be
Exactly.
sports practice or something. So for us, it was like my dad would tape it, and then he'd tell me because sometimes he'd watch it before or late, he'd be telling me what happened the next morning, like, oh, watch this one as soon as you can. Like I remember when we got to the Dominion War, and
Oh
that
my
really like how
God.
excited and how crazy it was. Like, yo, they did this or this, and I'm like, oh, okay, so now I gotta go watch. Like, so that excitement around that, it's that core memory. Like, okay, yeah, really getting into Trek. But like, my mama still has those tapes in the curio, and I
Nice.
and I want them just to digitize one time, simply for the commercials and the
The
little promos at the
commercials.
season, just to be like, like, because that's literally, yeah, this is a first, this is either a original or maybe second or third airing because
Yep.
you have to catch it when you can. So that's like some like okay, yeah, real time capsule type ish.
100%. Oh my God. Yeah. No, I have fond memories because when I finally did um, discover Deep Space Nine on syndication and a regular way to find it, it was always the Saturday afternoon. It was Hercules, Xena, and like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And I'm like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
that's my afternoon on Saturdays.
Right. And it's funny because like that I think of like my original viewing of Star Trek or introduction. Like I probably at one point Star Trek 3 was probably the movie I'd watched the most simply because that's the one we had recorded on VHS.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so at some point I really didn't know the story of okay, why are they go what happened to Spock? I don't know. I ain't never really seen Star Trek 2 like that. So I'm just like, oh, Spock dead? Like so it's funny how fragmented that is, but that's simply just how things, were back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure we'll get into deeper. Like I said, this just
There's a lot to
yeah, there's a
talk
lot, which is why
about.
we're going to take our time with this thing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I'm curious tonight. What is how are you feeling about the place of Trek right now? Like, you had this.
Yeah.
We've been kind of talking about because that's what we were raised, what you would call the golden era or so. But now we're kind
Mm-hmm.
of in this new era, which I don't.
Phase
Uh,
two.
Phase two, bam, we're calling it phase two of Trek. How are you feeling about where the franchise is right now? We have news
Mm-hmm.
of at this point. Starfleet Academy is, I think they just started
They just started filming.
shooting. Section 31 is about to come out.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
where we are in time. And outside of that, we got Strange New Worlds season 3
And
coming.
they already said they're going for four too.
Yeah, going for 4. So those are the kind of concrete things right now.
Mm-hmm.
Prodigy is in the air.
Yeah,
There's
unfortunately.
yeah, movies. Who knows?
Ish.
It's
We don't
ish.
know. Yeah.
So just right now, at this point in time, how are you
Mhm.
feeling about the franchise and its place?
Personally, I'm really excited for the potential of the future. I know things are a little shaky right now because Paramount and Sundance have merged, and I know there's been some layoffs at Paramount, and the future is kind of uncertain there. But you look on the other side of it. I mean, they have a whole Star Trek show in production right now. Like you don't do that if you're getting rid of a franchise.
Right.
So I think they're shuffling some things around, kind of seeing where the money makes sense or whatever. But I'm excited for the future because we're exploring this whole franchise month to month, like you said, leading up to the 60th anniversary. 60 years of a franchise. That's incredible. And you know, I've got my monthly fix with Star Trek because I keep up on the comic books from IDW,
Okay.
um, the Star Trek ongoing series, which now features Cisco with a
That,
new ship.
that's what I want to check out. Like that's one I have
You
ear.
have to check it out. I think they're up to they're getting close to issue 25. So a couple of the trade paperbacks are already out. And concurrently in the story, you got Star Trek Defiant, which is sharing the same universe as the Star Trek ongoing, with Worf in command of the Defiant.
Nice, nice.
And so they've already done a major crossover event called it was like the Klingon Blood War or something, and or the Year of Blood or something. And just incredible. They're doing so many amazing things with the Star Trek comics. And they just announced recently a Lower Decks regular comic.
Okay.
So even though we're going into the fifth and final season of Lower Decks, which I hate, and we can talk about that later, but in some way they're still continuing to go, and we haven't even mentioned that connected to Lower Decks, Tawny Newsome
Oh
is
yeah, that
writing a
yeah,
Star Trek comedy, a
yeah.
live action comedy. So I'm excited for the future of Star Trek. I'm cautiously optimistic with some of the projects that they've got going, and we've really slowed down. I wish Discovery had more time because I knew I wanted so badly for Discovery or any season to go to that magic number of 7 seasons, like we
Mhm.
had with Voyager, D Space Nine, and Next Gen. But in this age of streaming, I think 5 seasons is a pretty good run. There are some shows that don't even get past 2.
So
So that's all I'll say with that. How about you?
if Star Trek were to never produce another thing from this point forward, and essentially the
Mm-hmm.
60-year capsule was it, right there, that's an impressive piece of work. Like that,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, Star Trek is already one of the longest franchises ever, and it's wild at that we're still getting new stuff that's exciting fans. So
Yep.
if it were to end, it'd be a sad day, but that's a beautiful 60-year capsule. Like, yeah, we did this. I think what's exciting is there is so much of, I feel like they are finding their footing for what moving the franchise forward looks like or can
Yes.
feel like. Because I think this entire phase two that we've been through, aka the
And it's already, let's be clear, it's already been 7 years total, like since they announced Discovery.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we've gone so
so
much
much,
in these 7 years.
so much.
As a Trek fan who, when Enterprise ended, I was like campaigning for season 5 back in the day. Like, this era has been so exciting for me because it got my wife into Star Trek, which I'll be forever grateful. And we were doing rewatches of Next Generation for my wife Teresa, and my son RJ started recognizing the Next Generation theme song when it would come on, and
Ah.
he would like jump and dance to it. I've got posters on my wall. He points to it and says Enterprise, and he is that third generation Trekkie for in our family. Like,
Mm.
it's literally the next generation of fans, and I'm so excited that Prodigy is getting kids into Star Trek because they are what is going to carry the franchise forward.
It's the only one my son will watch. Like, cause it's like he right now he can't stand regular Trek, but
Sure,
he's
sure,
anti
sure.
anything that's not like
He,
kid.
he'll get there. He'll get there.
Oh, I don't trip. I don't trip. I know it's the youth. I know it's okay, son. But he does like Prodigy. He'll be like, oh, we gonna watch one with the kids. Cool. What's funny is,
Mm-hmm.
me and my wife also bonded over Trek Deep Space Nine. That's another. When we get there, I'll go deeper with that. So similarities there.
Nice.
But we got an overabundance, yeah, in phase two disco era, which I
Truly blessed.
never thought, especially with how things went after Enterprise and Nemesis.
Yep.
Yeah, what they were doing with the, Star Trek '09 and those movies, the JJ verse was good. It was decent. It didn't necessarily say, okay, yeah, it's coming back, but it did open the door to what we got.
Right.
Um,
And we'll get to
yeah.
those movies too, but before my wife met me, like she got exposed to the first time with Star Trek with the JJ,
Hmm.
the Kelvin verse.
Mhm.
And she really liked Chris Pine and still likes Chris Pine as an actor. So, yeah, when Beyond came out, we were in the theaters watching that. I love Star Trek Beyond. That was a great
Beyond is, mm,
50th anniversary tribute,
yes.
amazing. And I hate that we've been getting teased for like a decade of like Star Trek 4 or whatever. And it's like, come on, guys, like figure it out.
Which,
I don't believe any of the clickbait on any
oh
of
no,
these social
not at
sites.
all. But there, you gotta have hopes. Like I said, the part that
Yeah.
gets really excited going forward is if between Picard season 3,
Mm-hmm.
Disco season 5, and what they've
Mm-hmm.
done with Prodigy, it feels like they have figured out how to
Mm-hmm.
tell new stories and move things forward, yet also give us these connections that we want to know that this is this big interconnected universe without
Yes.
making it feel like it's too nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. Here's the thing. Here's bringing Worf on in season 5 and season 4 because we got to do something. It don't feel
Right.
like that. It
It's they figured out how to make those connections natural
Yes.
without being gimmicky.
Yeah, you got all these things on your shelves now that you can play with, and they have figured out how. Oh yeah, we can add a little of this
We
for just
can sprinkle that in.
yeah.
We can bring these people in, and it really feels like a Star Trek renaissance.
Sir,
Truly.
yeah, and because these couple things have hit back to back, it's like and they all did very well. It's
Hmm.
that's what really has me excited for what's to come. Possibly
Yes.
is if like okay, yeah, feels like there's a formula there. Can y'all follow it and shape it how you need to, and continue to go forward? And if they do, yeah, we are in for some good times because
Yeah.
even what they're doing with Strange New Worlds, there's pieces of they're like okay, you're doing some they're walking a tightrope of their own, which we'll when we get there we can discuss it. But um, there have been some questionable choices over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's true. But
It feels good.
yeah.
It feels good, even though there's not like the big
Hmm.
shiny thing I think ahead of us.
Hmm.
Trek feels like it's in a good place of what could come.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, any new Star Trek project that we get, I just feel blessed that we get like one more thing, because the future's never guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
We've been here before. I've seen in my own lifetime we had a almost a decade of like no real like Star Trek on the screen, and um, thankfully I feel good to be the age I'm at and like all seeing all this ahead of me, um and then seeing my dad get to watch like Star Trek Picard and like all those like memories and feelings about these characters come back. It's truly a wonderful thing that I feel that we've been blessed with, because they could have gone off the rails, and it could have gone completely different. So I'm very happy about the state of Star Trek right now.
See, I'm not gonna lie. I am extremely jealous of you with that aspect. The
Mm.
not to put a downer on this thing, but like
No, no, no.
the
I know.
suckiest part of this renaissance is that just my dad passed before it happened. And
Mm.
so we have yet to we like he would have loved season 3 of Picard. Like
Oh my god.
it's sitting here like oh it's part of the reason why I want to do this podcast because I have nobody to go like oh
Ah.
like I can do it with my wife, but she doesn't quite get it the same. Like it's like I said, it's one of the driving forces. Like yeah, like I want to go like damn it, did you see that? Or oh my god, they did this, or they pulled like
And
it's yeah.
yeah, and shout out to my Starfleet escape pod co-host Aaron Nova Charter. Um, we did that podcast on the regular for a decade, and over the past few years, especially during the pandemic, he's focused more on streaming and Twitch, and we are always like, we'll fire up another episode or whatever, and it hasn't happened. And I see all these other like amazing Star Trek podcasts take off, and like part of me is like, I'm available. I want to join in the talk. I want a podcast about Star Trek. But no, shout out to Aaron, my co-host, because I started podcasting doing it with him, and without his guidance, you wouldn't have Ranger Command Power Hour. You wouldn't have, me in the calling myself a podcaster and doing all these things. So I'll be forever grateful for him. And this is not a competition thing. I'm just hungry to talk Star Trek with someone. And you're right. I can talk with my wife about this too, but I think we have similar Star Trek backgrounds that I feel like we can both talk excitedly about Star Trek, but also bring our own viewpoint into it. And that's what you pitched me, and I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's bringing us here is one that y'all moment. I want to talk Trek with somebody else who knows Trek, but
Yeah, exactly.
also like, and this is not a shot down to anybody. Like
No.
this is not a shot down to any other podcast, content creator, anything like that. I consume a lot of it and I enjoy a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't I in my mind, I hear things being missed or I hear points not being made. So I am hoping one of my goals here is to not just sit here and hamper the some of the same points that we
Right.
all know and love. Some of us as Trek fans over and over again. I am hoping that you get something that you may not have heard before or different insights. And I'm just being blunt here. Another reason why I asked Eric to do it. If you haven't noticed, I'm black. He's white. I'm an East Coast kid. He's a Midwest kind of kid.
Yeah.
As he mentioned, I'm hoping that there's different perspectives. Maybe he brings something to mind that I had not seen or thought of, and vice versa. So we really just want to have a good conversation around Trek. And
And
that's
look, it's going to be honest. It's going to be real. I don't know how deep we're going to get into things, but I have a feeling we're going to have some serious conversations, and I love that for
we
us. And I'm excited.
it's one of the best things about the show. The show, like as much as it is a sci-fi space adventure, fantasy-esque, aliens, boom boom, ships blow, like one of the best things about the show, which we'll get to early on, since we're going to do this as the show's aired. So we're going to start with
Yep.
TOS. We all, one of the things TOS is people miss all the time is how it was speaking to issues, and so Trek opens the door to a variety of things, and that's one of the things I love most about the show.
Hmm.
Since you mentioned being honest, before we get out of here, what's one thing you're like, I really don't want to get to here in the franchise, or I'm not looking forward to when we have to get here, that you might not really want to touch upon.
That's a tough question. Um, for me, it would have to be Strange New Worlds because I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it. Um, I am not a huge fan of the let's do a new genre of TV every week for Star Trek.
Mhm.
It's worked for some episodes, but has failed horribly in others. I will never forgive Strange New Worlds for killing off Hemmer because one of my favorite all-time alien race in Star Trek are the Andorians. I did a Star Trek RPG, email RPG back in the early 2000s. I played an Andorian character. That's when we knew barely anything about the Andorians. I have an Andorian RPG source book from back in the day that I based a lot of this on and what I could find at the time. And dude, I was over the moon when Enterprise like focused on the Andorians and
Yeah,
Shran,
that fits right. Yeah.
and they introduced the Anar. And so when Strange New Worlds had an Anar engineer, I flipping out. And I will never forgive how they killed and took him out and forgot him like he was whatever. So I have a love hate relationship with Strange New Worlds, and I might get pretty heated at that. What
Okay.
about you? What about you?
Discovery. Um,
Yeah,
and
and and
and
you know what? Here's me being honest. I still have 2 seasons of Discovery to watch. I'm super behind on Discovery, and it sucks. But I have some opinions about Discovery. Like again, a love hate relationship. So yeah, sorry, I
Look,
didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you good. I can sum it up like this: Discovery is the most like TOS to Star Trek to an extent,
Hmm.
but it is also the show least the most least Star Trek show of any Star Trek franchise. It sits on both ends of the spectrum where which when we'll get into it deeply when we get to Discovery,
Oh
it
yeah.
has literally done the work kind of essentially in what TOS did in building a new world in this time period.
Yes.
And at the same time, the biggest issue is it's the show most least like any other Star Trek show period and how it's built and the stories being told or the focus of the story. And yeah, so I just and add all that
Well, because of
into
that, because Strange New Worlds is a spin-off of Discovery.
oh outside of and a good majority of the stuff of is a spin-off, and what we're getting going forward is Discovery spin-offs. Like they don't want to call Academy a spin-off, but it's a
But
spin-off.
it is
The Section 31 movie is a spin-off of
is a
Discovery. Like,
spin-off.
right now, like Discovery is it holds a high and a low at the same time, and you add into all the
Yes.
other stuff with it.
But here's the thing, Discovery kicked off. Without Discovery, we wouldn't have Lower Decks. We wouldn't have Prodigy.
Hence the
So
problem.
there's this
It's
I
yeah.
dude, I'm right there with you and I cannot I'm kind we'll get there, but I'm anxious about our Discovery episode because obviously between now and the time we record that one, I promise I will have watched all of Discovery. But that's the problem for me because it's the problem that this is the first Star Trek show that I have not kept up all the way.
It's been a it was it's been a long road with that show.
It is, and we dropped off at the end of season 3, and we watched maybe the first couple episodes of season 4, me and my wife, and obviously we had a kid and all that stuff. Um, and it sucks because Star Trek Discovery episode 1 premiered on our first wedding anniversary.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So we were all in for Discovery. Like those first 2 seasons, season 3 we kind of wavered a bit, and then we kind of tapered off at the beginning of season 4. And yeah, I'll save all of that for our Discovery episode, but I feel you with that one for
It's
sure.
it's Discovery ended beautifully. If
Mm-hmm.
it knew what it was from the beginning, I think they would have been okay. Or if they
Mm-hmm.
weren't trying to sell, like, but yeah, they figured it out. Highs
We'll
and
get
lows.
there.
Yeah,
We'll get
we'll
there.
get there. But anyway, we hope you join us for this ride.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can follow me at jclark787, my good friend Trekkie B47 over there. Anyways,
Yeah.
please like, share, subscribe, join us. It's just gonna be a fun ride. We're gonna go wherever the sales carry us, wherever wherever Star Trek goes or has been, we're gonna go. And yeah, be along. If you got some comments, hit us up.
Yeah. Open to feedback, and live long and prosper, I guess.
Indeed. Until next time, yeah. You said that correctly. I should have.
Yeah.